Hello and welcome to our October edition of the Birds of Essex.
Hello.
Hello.
We are back.
We're back.
We made it through the summer and we are back. We want to hear about your summer, where you got to, if you were birding away or if you were birding locally. Let us know your summer highlights tonight on the program. And also we have an incredible program set up tonight with a special guest. And there's a couple of questions I want to ask you right from the outset. Number one, that relate to our guest and our topic tonight. Number one is, what do you think the most observed migrating bird past the Essex coast is? Particularly we're thinking autumn migration. What would it be? And how many birds in the maximum year have been observed by Paul Brayshaw in Frinton of this species? And then the next question is, who is our mystery guest? We've not disclosed it anywhere, so I'm going to give you a clue. Okay, if I can find, it should be on Windows Media Player here. And no, that is not the clue.
Is it Bedfield?
It's not that particular field, but that will be featuring later.
Nice to know that our professionalism's still high.
Yeah, we haven't had any lessons over the summer, have we, guys? What in the world is going on? Right, now, let me try that again and share the screen. It's still not coming up, so I don't know.
There's nothing like being organised, and this is nothing like it.
Okay, give me a minute, guys. I'll have to do
I'll
some.
tell you what. While you're doing that, shall we pass some details as to how people can get in touch with us? So, if anyone's got their mobile phones to hand, if you want to take a snapshot of this screen, you're more than welcome. Basically, you can get in touch with us on Twitter. At EBSW Tweets. You can get in touch with us on Facebook at EBWS Info, and I think Steve's monitoring Twitter and Facebook, aren't you, Steve?
Yep, I am, so I'll keep an eye on that tonight.
Good stuff. Ignore the phone number. We're not using that phone number tonight. The phone's gone a little bit funny, so ignore the phone number. Emails is the other way. You can get in touch, ebwstalks@gmail.com. And of course, a lot of the time people just simply use the live chat on Yahoo, and I think people are already starting to chat in there. So we'll catch up on them in a minute. So yeah, good to see everyone. I'm glad we're back, and hopefully Steve's got the clue lined up. Fingers crossed.
Let's try that. How's that?
Yay!
It works.
There he is. Okay, so if you've any idea who our special guest is tonight, from that particular cryptic clue, then write it in the chat or feed it back to us as in the ways that Matt and Steve have said. Excellent.
Excellent.
Good. Got there in the end, eh?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. We'll get there in the end.
Good. So yeah, go on.
We've got some people saying hi. So Jamie Thornton said hello. So hi, Jamie.
Hey, Jamie.
Jim Hume said evening. Hi, Jim.
Evening, Jim.
Richard Chu said hello, Matt and Steve. Looking forward to another evening of information and entertainment, not necessarily in that order.
Entertainment.
Well, I think the entertainment's already started, yeah. Mo Jackson said hi. David Smith said hi. Kevin Poulton, Mel Shepherd-Wells, Les Malloy. Everyone said hello.
Hello, guys. Great to have you back.
Richard said it was good to finally meet at least one of the three amigos at the last EBWS indoor meeting. That was myself. So yeah, it was good to meet you too, Richard.
Yeah.
Andy Goody saying hi as well. So hello, everyone.
Hi, Andy.
Good. Well, there's been some bits and bobs happening, haven't there, Ken? We had that indoor meeting for EBS. You were there, Matt. Kind of good night?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was Peter Warne had a talk about Epping Forest. And to be fair, the indoor meetings are always really good fun. And they're always really well presented, really informative, loads of good pictures. And it's a good way to meet up with people from the society as well. But this particular one I thought was really interesting for me personally, because it's from somewhere just down the road. And I will confess, I've not been to Epping Forest. So based on Peter's talk, it's somewhere I'm definitely going to go. It sounds like a really good area, and it's nice to see some pictures of birds that I knew what they were. without having to try and remember loads of different species. So yeah, it was a really good talk. Really good talk.
Excellent. And you've had a field trip as well, Steve.
Yeah, we had a field trip last Sunday down to Bradwell, which Jerry, our Essex Birdwatching Society chairman, was unavailable. So Matt and I led the day, and we had a really good, nice turnout. Weather was good. We managed to see some nice birds, fabulous views of Merlin for about, what was that, about an hour, Matt, wasn't it?
Wow.
Oh God, it just sat there, didn't it?
Just sat there completely, yes, full scope views, a little bit distant, but great views. What else did we have? We had common scoter, gannets.
Yeah, gannet, yeah. Bramblings.
Ukrainian gull.
Yeah. You picked out some bramblings, didn't you, and with the chaffinch?
Yeah, Bramblings was a real surprise. Yeah, I just happened to scan this open field and there were 4 bramblings in it. So
excellent. Yeah. There's been a little arrival of bramblings recently, and we want to know what you're seeing and what, you know, has been moving. We'll be talking more later about reports, looking back not just over October, but bits of September as well. It's been a break, you know, since we've been on, but also we've had the Big County Bird Watch, but we've got a bit of an announcement about that. As far as we won't be doing a lot about it tonight, will we? So what's the plan?
Well, I think we're going to have a bit of a catch up. We're going to do like a roundup review of the BCBW, and we're going to pre-record that at the beginning of November, because I don't know if anyone's seen the outtakes from last year, but we'll probably need a few hours to do a half-hour show, I think. But yeah, we'll do a catch up, we'll do a review, and that'll be on our YouTube channel, I would imagine, towards the middle to end of November. Yeah,
maybe even early November, but that's what we're planning to do it. So yeah, rather than kind of cram it in tonight, we'll give it space. And so if you've got any feedback for us, any photos, places you went, particularly, we said before, kind of, we love photos of different reserves and your patches, then send them in and we can feature them in that particular program if you get them in by the usual means. Good. We've had some feedback as well from people over the last couple of months. Mo Jackson has sent in some information about an interesting gull. Steve, you've got that?
Yeah, I have. So let me just see if my computer works tonight. I can. Do you know what I'm having? You're having a. That's
all right.
Having a complete nightmare tonight. Computer. The mouse. So yeah, Mo. Oh, if I can find it. Do you know what?
I tell you what, I might have it here, Steve.
We're supposed to be professional, aren't we?
Do you want me to put the picture up?
Yeah. Well, actually, to be fair, Steve, just give me just 2 seconds because
I've got it here if you want it.
Oh no, I've got it here. Look, here we go.
Shall I sing a song?
Yeah, can you just like talk amongst yourselves? You know. Do you know what?
Have you been out today at all?
Here's the gull.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, well, I'm glad you shared it.
That's all right.
So yeah, Mo spotted this black-headed gull over at Mistley. I think it was quite recently, and I don't know if you've got that PDF there, Steve.
Yeah, I have.
Just so we can.
Let me see if I can switch to that.
Better than I can.
Let me see if I can switch to that as well.
It'll be a long show tonight, guys.
Looks like it's that. How's that? Have you got it?
Yeah, that's better. So yeah, so as you can see, it was ringed in 2009, and without going into too many details, basically.
What's that place called, Steve?
Svianzamertegebuchten in Copenhagen. So the place it was ringed is a small wetland area right in the middle of Copenhagen, and if you can sort of roughly see from this PDF here that it left Copenhagen, and then the following year it was seen at Mistley, and then a month or 2 later it was over in County Cork, again on a small lake there, and basically it's just been going backwards and forwards between Copenhagen, Cork, Mistley. And I did a bit of research this afternoon, and it's probably flown a minimum of sort of 5,500 miles, just going backwards and forwards between the 2 or 3 places.
Good, great.
So, incredible, isn't it? And it rings with that black-tailed godwit that kind of did a switch between. I think that was County Cork as well. That's very interesting.
Well, talking about black-tailed godwit, David Smith has sent in this picture. He took on the Stour. I I think that probably would have been sort of the Manningtree area, or maybe off the walls. So you've got a black-tailed goblet with a whole selection of rings, all the different rings and all the different colours, I think.
Yeah.
And this particular bird, if I can just bring up the spreadsheet, hopefully, here we go. Similar sort of thing. I'm not going to go through it all because, believe it or not, there's 22 pages of sightings on this bird.
Wow.
But it was ringed in 2008 at Levington on the River Orwell. And if you look down, I'm going to scroll through them really quickly, but what you'll notice is, first of all, there are gaps in the summer, April, October, and so on, April, August there. But all the records are from this country. So I couldn't see a single record of the bird being reported outside of this country. So I would imagine, I mean, if it's up in Iceland or Greenland, you know, wherever it's going to be going for the summer,
Yeah.
Maybe they're just not reporting up there, or maybe it's in an area that's so remote no one sees it. So
to be fair, I think that'd be the case. I mean, I did a tour to Iceland a few years ago, and we saw a few black-tailed godwits, you know, with rings and stuff on. But some of the areas are so inhospitable that could just vanish into, you know, miles of open area. So
Yeah.
I suspect that's what's happening, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's always good to report those. I mean, we've covered it before, but just make sure everyone, if you see a bird with a ring, try and get a picture of it if you can, or if it's colour rings, write them down or take a picture and then report it to the BTO website. And it's really easy to do. And you get the information back usually within a couple of days. And it's always really interesting to see how old the bird is or how long ago it was ringed, and where it's been as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. We've also had a question in from Jamie Thornton, who's watching Jamie. And so he's asked about tawny owls, interested in seeing one, where to see them, how to, you know, kind of find them, identify them. And it's topical because they will be calling now and pairing, won't they? They breed very early.
Yep. Yeah, November's a really good time to go out and listen for tawny owls. Yeah, they sort of keep territories all year round, but this time of year they're very vocal. So if you know a nice evening out, you know, you should be able to record them on your local patch. But finding them is always a bit tricky, you know. I mean,
what's a good way of looking out for them during the day, Steve? Are there any sort of pointers or signs that there might be one lurking in cover?
Yeah, I mean, listen to the other birds. You know, that's how the other birds are reacting. So blackbirds, thrushes, robins, you know, blue and the tits, you know, they're all alarm calling. You know, it's well worth checking, like covers areas of ivy, because they do like roosting in sort of ivy covered trees, and holly bushes are really good. Just gives them a bit of safety.
And occasionally, if you're really lucky, you might have I've seen a couple where it's a nice sort of warm day, maybe in the winter, you know, a bit of sunshine, and they'll actually sometimes be out in the open during the day, which is always lovely to see.
Yeah, towards the end of the day, I've seen them I always look on the sunny side of large trees and things. They'll kind of, you know, be exposing themselves to a few of the rays towards, you know, this time of year.
And don't forget, if you get really lucky, you might even find a long-eared owl if you hear birds kicking off in the bushes, so to speak. And I still haven't seen one yet, so that's a bird I've got to try and tick off this winter, fingers crossed.
You chose to watch England instead of coming down here and watching one.
To be fair though, guys, now is a good time to look for short-eared owls and long-eared owls, because we're getting, hopefully if the winds are favourable, you know, we get quite a lot of Scandinavian migrants coming in this time of year. So, yeah, keep your eyes peeled on the coast and inland as well.
Yeah.
While we're on the subject of owls, Jeff Martin has contacted the Society just to remind people that there is actually a tawny owl survey. You should be able to see the page hopefully on the screen there.
Yeah, we've got that, Matt.
So this page is actually on the Essex Field Club website. You can see the web address at the top here, but if you just go to essexfieldclub.org.uk, and it's actually on the main screen down the bottom right here, just click the link and you'll go to this page, and it just tells you a little bit about tawny owls and where they're looking for sightings and how to record sightings as well. And it's a really important thing, to be fair, because I think tawny owls, like so many other species, they're in decline. They're not seen or heard as frequently as they used to be. But the data that we all, submit goes towards that, building that picture of the current status of the bird and the other owls as well, the long-eared, short-eared, and little owl and barn owl, of course.
Yeah, and don't worry if you put data into the, either our website or Bird Track, and you don't actually see published your long-eared owl sighting and things like that, because with the nature of certain birds, they have to have some measure of protection, and so they don't publicize. And I think there's certain birds that we don't kind of publicize in that way, but don't let that not stop you putting the data, because that's vital for, survey and information and looking at populations as well. But that's good. Yeah, if you've got any kind of experienced birders in your area, Jamie, they may be able to pinpoint you onto, particularly if they watch woodland patches, they may be able to pinpoint you into where to be looking for tawnies.
We've got a couple of messages on the chat, actually. So Les Malloy said Epping Forest was a regular place for him as he grew up in Tottenham. And Jim Hume, he's had his first bramblings of the autumn on the 11th of October over Coggeshall, and Shuts Heath Wood is a pretty good site for tawny owls, and that's actually where I've seen one out in the open during the day. And also Richard Chew said the various woods around Langdon Hills as well can be good for owls. So yeah,
very good. Yeah, Jamie's now crossed the border. He's no longer an Essex boy. He's gone over to the Suffolk side of the river, but he's up on the north side there. And if anybody up there kind of knows where to see tawny owls, send a message in and we'll let Jamie know.
Matilda in Ipswich. It's like the most. If you Google tawny owl,
Matilda.
Yeah, it used to be Mabel, but I think Mabel passed away, and now it's like Matilda. And if you is it Christchurch Park, Matt?
Yes, Christchurch Park. If you park, I can't remember the name of the road, but there's the road to the east of Christchurch Park. You can park along there. There's a gate that you can walk through, and the main path leading south. The tree is really easy to find because there's actually a wooden sculpture of an owl at the base of it. And if you look at the top of the tree, and yeah, there's basically an owl sitting there during the daytime quite regularly. If you're lucky, you'll see. There's
a possible tick then, Jamie. Should be onto that.
It's a really well worth a look. It's a really good view of a tawny owl.
Have we heard from anybody kind of feeding back on where they've been on holiday or what they've been seeing? Kind of.
No, I've got nothing tonight. I reckon.
All quiet, is it? We've had a little trip out, haven't we? We went to Norfolk.
Sorry, just very quickly for Jamie. That's the tree.
Is that the one he's looking for?
That's the one you're looking for in Ipswich.
Is that Matilda or is that Maureen?
I took this about 2 hours ago. 2 hours ago, blimey, 2 years ago. Sorry, I lost track of time really with COVID, but there you go. So yeah, and that's how good a view you can get.
Oh wow, that's impressive.
I think that's Matilda in it. I think, yeah.
Anyway, yeah. Sorry, summertime.
I don't know about naming these.
What did we do, guys?
No, it's all a bit of a blur, wasn't it? Really, but we did have a day out, all three of us, didn't we? In September.
We did.
We did.
First time we've caught up with each other, apart from on Zoom, obviously, for quite a few months.
And I took the guys. I invited the guys to go to Snettisham to the Waders Spectacular, which they'd never been to before. My wife and I had been, and so we had a day there early morning, and it was amazing, wasn't it?
It was fabulous, absolutely fabulous.
Absolutely crazy.
If you've never been up to Snettisham, Norfolk, for the Waders Spectacular, or they have the Geese Spectaculars as well, where they leave the wash area. It's well worth going. The dates are on the RSPB website.
And this is kind of what you see. I mean, this is just, how many knots do we reckon there were? 50, 60,000?
Yeah, between 50 and 60,000.
And they're all just flying over your head to and from the roosting point. And yeah, I mean, it's just spectacular, isn't it? It really is.
It's amazing. Yeah.
I took so many photos and I've still not even sorted them out yet.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing.
Hundreds.
I've actually, go on, Matt, sorry.
Go on. I was going to say, this is one of my favourites. I'm thinking of maybe getting it painted off because it's just like a big sort of tornado of
smoke, isn't it?
Yeah, really lovely.
Smoking knot.
I'll see if I can load that video up quickly.
Yeah, if you can load that video, because
Yeah.
basically the water on the big tides, you have to. It's not every tide, but on the big tides, it covers pretty much all the mud flats across the wash, and so the waders all. You know, I put together a video which I'll send to you guys as a bit of a memory of the day and a treat, and all the waders were kind of walking away from the tide when we first got there. There was this march going on, and then suddenly the water comes round and they are up in the sky, and then they go to roost on some islands. Have you got that video of them?
Yeah, I'm
Of
just
all
gonna
the
see
not
if I
kind
can
of.
get it working. Hold on 1 second. If I do that and can you kind
Yeah,
of?
we've got them.
You can see the
Not
video.
moving
so,
yet. Yeah.
if I just press play, hopefully that will
Oh,
kind
here
of
we
work
go.
roughly. There you go.
Yeah. Islands full of knot and other waders as well.
Yeah, and some of the knot was still in summer plumage, that lovely brick red colour.
It's just mesmerising. What I find really fascinating with this is just the way they kind of
Look at
they
that
all move
movement
as
to the
one.
back there.
Yeah,
Oh, that was brilliant.
it's just like a river of birds, and you know, it is spellbinding. Really.
Look at that.
I think there's good high tides at the moment, I think, isn't there, this week?
There are. Yeah, there are. A friend of ours went up last weekend, I think. And so you need the big spring tides.
As Steve said, if you haven't done this, go and do it.
Oh, do yeah. It's worth the day. It's worth the early morning.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. So there you go.
Yeah.
And of course, I was just going to say, guys, that of course a lot of these knot eventually will start dispersing, and then they'll start coming down our neck of the woods.
Yeah.
Winter, you know, especially on the Stour estuary, I think, isn't it, Matt?
Yes, yeah. I mean, that you get loads of knot on the Stour. I think.
Actually, and Bradford as well, Dingy Coast.
Yes, yeah. I mean, there was. Goodness, I can't remember how many thousand knot there were last year on the Stour. Ed will chastise me next time he sees me because I was helping him with the count. But
Are you doing the count?
It was 10. It was well over 10,000 birds, I think, were present. Yeah, it's just, again, it's the one thing when you see them, it's the noise.
Oh,
They're taking off, it's the noise.
That's awful, that is.
Have you got this here?
Oh,
This was my memory of the day, because I obviously took them and we saw all the knot go off and go up in the air and come down onto this lake, and this was one of my funny memories of the day. See, no one can see them. Steve has to look in his camera screen and lift his camera over.
It was over the top, weren't they? Yeah.
You see the mound there. And as for Matt, he hasn't got a hope.
I wasn't tall enough.
So Matt and I talked about the sound and the noise that we were hearing, because there was actually only me that could see all those thousands of knot on that island over the top.
No need to show off because you're tall, don't worry.
If anyone's got a spare pair of platform shoes, size 9, I need about 6 inches, and then I'll be good to see them next time.
To be fair, ABBA are doing a tour next year.
Yeah, there might be those kind of what do they call it? Kind of sci-fi type hologram type shoes.
Yeah.
Holographic.
They wouldn't help me.
I was so tempted to not show them the hide where they could actually all see them, but no, we went along to the hide and we all managed to see them. But that was a great day, good day. So where have you been? Let us know what you've seen. My wife and I were on Skocum Island and had a great time there for a week.
Okay,
birding.
so we've got a bit more chat in the YouTube, so thank you very much, everyone. Les Malloy saying Sudbury Old Railway Track is good for tawny owls.
Very good, thank you.
Nick Woodruff, sightings for tawny owls in Suffolk. For me personally, is Great Cornard Country Park. That's kind of Sudbury way, isn't it?
Sudbury way, yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Great.
Nick Lay, he's saying, has he missed the chat about the East Tilbury White Stork?
Oh, it's still coming. It's still coming.
Not yet, no. Richard Chew, Snettisham, definitely one of the best wildlife spectacles in the UK.
Yep.
Highly recommended, but do check the best dates for the incoming tide. So, yeah, again, the RSPB website's really good for that.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's about it. Talking about owls. David Webb was at RSPB Arn last week in Dorset. Lovely reserve with lots of different environments. Saw over 60 spoonbills, but only 3 great white egrets. And he thinks they're somewhat jealous of the 30 plus at Abberton at the moment. And Mel's, hi Mel, Mel said he went up to last year to Snettisham for the Wader Spectacular. Probably the best birding experience he's had. To be fair, yeah, I'd probably agree with that in all honesty.
Yeah,
brilliant. It was phenomenal. What a great place.
Yeah. Has anybody guessed our guest? Guessed our guest yet? Or any guess? Any numbers? We're asking what you think the bird, and then we can give you a little bit of a checklist that is most observed, highest numbers observed off the Essex coast on migration, and also our guest who we're about to actually introduce. Anybody guessed our guest tonight?
So Jim guessed Brent Geese as the highest recorded bird.
Excellent.
Good.
And David Brent?
Yeah, Tim Hayward's just put Brent as well.
Very good. But anybody got the David Brent connection?
No, I don't think no one knows.
No, I don't think so. So
Well,
shall we reveal?
I think we ought to do the reveal, Matt.
Okay, so 3, 2, 1, here he comes. Hopefully.
Yes. Okay.
Give it a couple of seconds.
Here's David. Hi, David. As he gets sorted out. This is David Lowe.
David's on mute.
You're on mute at the moment, David.
I might just need to ask you to unmute, David. There you go. That should enable it. Yeah, there we go. This is David Lowe. And, some people refer to David as Mr. Brent for Essex because of his passion for Brent Geese. And we've invited him on tonight to talk to us about Brent Geese. And firstly, how you doing, David?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you. Thanks for the invite. Great to talk to everybody.
Yeah, you're welcome. So first of all, tell us about yourself, David. How long have you been bird watching?
Oh, I think I've been bird watching since I was a small boy, probably 5 years old, when I could hold a pair of binoculars. So by my reckoning, it was my birthday 2 days ago. So that's probably 48 years. I'm 53, so yeah.
Happy
best part of
birthday.
50 years, I reckon.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Happy birthday for you. We were chatting that day and you never told me, you never gave me a clue. You were very gracious in giving me some time on your birthday to chat and prepare for tonight.
Did you
I was just going into a restaurant, and my mum actually fell over outside the restaurant.
Oh no.
Which is quite funny, but she's okay, thankfully.
That's
did you get a cake in the shape of a Brent Goose?
Yeah.
I was going to ask, are you a local Essex birder as well, as in, you know, from childhood, David, or?
Yeah, I've always birdwatched in the county of Essex, places like Old Hall Marsh, probably Rainham, more so Bradwell. That's a place where I love to go all of the time. Great Wakering, Lee. I just love being on the Essex coast.
So when do you remember seeing your first Brent Goose?
Well, probably when I was about 9 or 10. Just thrilled by the numbers, many thousands of them at Leigh-on-Sea and places like Steeple, Mayland, on the Blackwater, when there's just the cacophony of noise is just unbelievable. And watching geese coming over, it's just a really memorable sight. So that's what got me into geese, I think.
And if anybody's watching tonight and you've never seen Brent Geese, or you've seen one or two, again, we've talked about Snettisham. I think the Essex equivalent of Snettisham is Leigh-on-Sea at this time of year, watching the Brent Geese. There are thousands of them that gather there, and David was there the other day, weren't you, David?
Yeah. We spoke briefly the other day, and I think I'd read 8 coloured rings, and probably I was looking for amongst 7,500 Brent Geese. at the time when we was talking. Really thrilling experience. Something that I advise everybody to do. It's a real thrill.
Yeah. And for those of you might be watching from London, and if people haven't got cars, if you can get on the train, the C2C train line literally delivers you almost at the spot, doesn't it? Leigh-on-Sea railway station. You just walk down to the cockle shed, as it's called.
I'm normally down there the first 2 weeks of October, inclusively. Anyone's welcome to come along and look through the scope, ask any questions. Quite welcome that.
Well, there you go. So look out for David if you do make a trip down this weekend or even in the week. But what really drives your passion for Brent Geese, David?
I just like I think it's the flocks and the formations, and looking for them for oddities, variations, and over the years I've probably developed a little bit of a skill for you can actually see the different sizes, so you can actually tell male from female, youngsters by their feathers and plumage, and other birds that travel within the flock, rarities perhaps, finding things like black brant, pale-bellieds, red-breasted goose. I've seen 7 in Essex, found 4 of them. It's a real thrilling experience being on the Essex coast. Which I recommend to everybody.
Yeah. So we've got some pictures, haven't we, guys, of ID?
So if we put up, can you see that now? Can you see the?
Because in the UK, Davey, there's a couple of different species of Brent geese, isn't there? Maybe you want to explain them.
Yeah, this bird's a pale-bellied juvenile Brent goose. You can see the white feathering or the 3 lines towards the back. That's the identification that identifies it as a first winter bird, a first year bird, juvenile, new to this year.
And why is it a pale belly, David?
So the flanks around the side are really pale, and the back on pale-bellied Brent geese are very much lighter than dark-bellied Brent geese, and these migrate from the Canadian high Arctic, and also they migrate from Spitsbergen to our coast. So any bird that you're likely to encounter on the Essex coast is probably from the Spitsbergen or Franz Joseph Islands. So this is these are dark-bellied juveniles, and myself and my girlfriend, we call this picture the 3 wise siblings. And they're sat nicely there in formation. I think we took this picture a couple of years ago around, I think on Boxing Day, or when I was out birding. It was at Saltcoats and Southwood Ferrers. So you can get really close to the geese there. So you can see they're very much darker, and the flanks are really dark, much darker than the pale-bellied. And the neck, when it joins the body, on pale-bellied, there's more of a difference there. So it's a lot paler, but on dark-bellied, it's a lot darker, and almost sooty colour.
Yeah. Okay, what we've got next? Here we go. This is. Do you want to talk us through this one?
Yeah.
So this is white end red 2-bar. It was.
And that's the ring detail, is it, David?
Sorry.
Is that the ring detail that you mentioned there?
Yeah, it's so WN red equals means white N. So on the left leg, it's got a white N. It's a black ring with a white inscription with an N on it.
Right.
On the right leg, there's a red, and it's got an equal sign. But the photo's a bit pixelated there, and it's a little bit distant. But I can assure you that is the bird.
Yeah.
This bird was rung on the 15th of the 5th, 97 on the Dutch Groningen coast.
Oh. I
see it for many years, and it was paired to white N red X, which was the male. They came to Old Hallmarsh for probably 4 or 5 years before the the male was lost. He died naturally, I would assume. She kept coming alone. I actually read her a few years ago on Boxing Day, probably about 4 years ago. But I see her at Leigh-on-Sea a couple of years ago in The Strange Light of Ophelia, which was a real brilliant experience. I've read her out the back of Bradwell Bird Observatory on a snow-covered landscape in probably 4,000 Brent Geese. I think there was about 7 or 8 rings in the flock. This being the real jewel in the flock. There was a red-breasted goose that day as well. So this is bird in the centre with the really white flank. This is a black brant. This is the rare eastern form of dark-bellied Brent Goose, or it's some people call it the Pacific North American black brant, but these are actually from Siberia. So these are meant to be wintering in Japan or China. So instead of going east, they come west. So this bird is out of its range a little bit. So when they migrate, they get muddled up with dark-bellied Brent Geese, probably when their breeding range cross over. When these birds molt at the end of July, they molt all their wing feathers. So all geese in Siberia and dark-bellieds and black brants, they'll become flightless for a few weeks. So great parties build up together, and this is probably when one comes the wrong way. So it's come west instead of going east. But once it's ingrained into a bird to go somewhere, it will continue this cycle, and they will come year after year after year. So I think this is
black brand, David? Sorry.
Yes, a black brand.
Yeah, what makes it black brand?
So
If we
if you notice
them,
the neck colour on this bird is very prominent, and it's meets around the front, and it's really heavily marked. This bird is a male. Sometimes people make mistakes with this bird, but if you look at the mantle, the blackness on the back, this is very diagnostic feature of a black brand.
can we
This
see
and
that?
the white flank patch.
Can we see that on that picture that you've got, Steve? If we swap the screen share
Back there,
and
Yep.
come back to them, Matt, and then we can look into, because I know this is one of the questions that people ask. Kind of, they're looking through, these black Brent geese.
So, yeah, so I've just
This is a dark belly.
that's a dark belly.
Right. So dark-bellied.
Let me just move my mouse out of the way.
So this bird's showing a bit of age because there's some brown hueing in the feathering.
On the flank or on the wing coverts area.
Sorry, there you go. Come back to that.
This
Sorry.
bird's a first winter juvenile.
Right.
That's the adult.
So that's the adult. The mouse is now playing up. That's the first winter.
Right. So looking on the back there, on the wing, the coverts area. I don't know whether you want to point at that, Steve, if your mouse will play with us.
So towards the outer primaries there.
And the outer primaries is the white band there that you mentioned before, yeah?
So this bird's probably quite advanced. So it's probably around like the turn of the year, probably January onwards. They look like this, and they're molting through.
And it's lacking the neck detail, isn't it? That kind of patch.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that's a good thing for people, beginners, intermediates, looking out through a flock. Probably one of the first things to do is to look for the neck detail, maybe. Would it?
Yeah.
Or would it
Yeah.
be
So sometimes the depending on the if it's a male or a female, the males are show a more prominent neck collar, and it's quite heavily marked. So this bird, to me, I would say is a female.
Yeah.
Very slight head, very small beak for the species. So I would say that this is a female goose.
Okay, so move on to that one.
So this is a pale-bellied adult. The fringes around the primaries, I think, probably make it a second winter bird. but really nice. You can see where the neck ends, where the blackness on the neck ends, where it meets the breast. That's a very diagnostic feature of pale-bellied Brent Goose. So if you're in the field and you're birding, and you come across a Brent Goose flock, obviously they're more likely to be dark-bellieds in Essex. But if you look amongst them and you see a much paler bird, where the neck band ends and it meets the breast, that's a very good place to look. So you can see this bird. It's a really good picture, actually. One of Steve's, I believe.
Yeah, that was taken at Walton on the Naze, Dave. So
yeah, got a terrific neck collar, that bird too.
That's priceless information, that, David. Brilliant information.
Is it also true to say, sorry, that the dark belly doesn't extend between the legs on a pale bellied? It's obviously paler underneath anyway, but you don't get any darkness beyond the legs. Is that correct? I read that somewhere, or?
That's right. So this is a cracking example of an adult black brand.
Black brand.
And I believe this is on Mersey Island.
Yep,
it's very much a feature bird on Mersey, I believe. Quite a celebrity. Comes back every year, doesn't it?
It does.
I've seen it a few times myself. It's got a very prominent neck collar, this bird. And if you notice along the flanks, this is a very diagnostic feature, the flank patch. And also, if you're ever not sure if a bird's a hybrid or not, if it's a hybrid, they'll have a grey back, not a black back like this has got. So very black maroon back, and the hueing on the feathering is almost red sometimes. Very maroony. A really impressive bird. When they're close up, there's a lot of difference between black brand and normal dark bellied.
That's great.
You know,
have you got anything more, Steve, or should we go back to Matt's?
No, go back to Matt's. I'm just trying to stop the sharing. If it ever stops.
Have you locked us up?
There you go.
There we go.
There you go. Sorry about that.
Okay, so we'll go back to the other pictures. Here we go.
And then we'll talk a little bit about migration.
So that looks like a pale belly to me because of what you were
If
saying.
anyone's got questions, just as we're loading this up, please send them in, because we're going to have a Q&A with David at the end.
So this is a pale bellied adult in the centre of the picture. I took this off of Shoebury Boom, I think, this year. You know, this bird's been in the Thames Estuary throughout October. From I first see it on the 30th of September, and it's been in and out of the estuary up to Leigh-on-Sea. Real impressive bird. As you might be able to know, it's not got much of a neck collar, this bird, but the back, the mantle on the back is very much greyer than the dark bellies around it, but really diagnostic feature there, the pale belly, or where the neck meets the body band, it's very light in coloration.
Okay.
So that's a real good identification tool there.
I don't know whether that picture or even this one would help us. I wanted you to, again, inform us about the family groups and how you're kind of recognizing those. Obviously, there's the aging detail that you've given, but anything.
So quite often you'll see two adults together, a pair, and there'll be juvenile birds accompanying them. So you'll be able to see by how many are accompanied the adults, how many juveniles they've got, and you can actually see the slight size difference between male and female. So this is a picture I took several years ago on Wolsey Hills in North Norfolk, on the North Norfolk coast. This bird is a Lucistic Brent Goose. That's the white pigmentation that's got all over it. So the head and the back are very grey, like they're silver. It's almost silver bird, very white in coloration. There's been one of these at Leigh, passing through Leigh-on-Sea the last couple of seasons in October, and I think I've seen it on the return leg when it's been migrating back, going back to Siberia. I've seen one on Mersey Island.
Are they quite unusual to see?
They're quite common.
Okay.
There's more than one or two. This is a real bogey bird for farmers. Unfortunately, some farmers still shoot Brent geese along the Essex coast, but they're really perturbed by shooting a white one. So they think it's unlucky, which is good for this bird. So these are our Northambridge ring birds. They carry green leg rings. This is green DJ and green DN. This picture was taken at the base of Hawthorne Cliff on the River Crouch, probably about a mile east of Northambridge ringing site. So these birds are really site faithful to the Crouch estuary. These birds come back. I've actually I see green DJ, the male, about a week ago, off of Wakering Stairs, between Wakering Stairs and Shoebury Boom. Unfortunately, he's on his own, so it looks like he's lost his partner this year. This is a real interesting bird. Comes to Leon Sea. My Dutch colleagues have got pictures of this on Texel in Holland. This is a Lucistic, part Lucistic Brent Goose, and it's got like a skull cap or a white coloured head, which is it's a real nice feature. So some of these birds you can identify not only by their leg rings, by the identification marks that they take as an individual. So some have white bands around their necks as well, and white feathering in their wing feathers. So, like this bird, this is Old Hall, I believe in January this year. I've got quite close to this bird. It's been coming for a few years, as far as I know. I've actually seen it at Bradwell Sea as well, a couple of times. But very distinctive bird.
Sorry, I've got a question. So, with a leucistic bird like that, does the leucistic markings, do they change over time, or do they kind of stay fairly consistent?
No, they stay pretty consistent.
Okay.
So they'll stay like that. It's the legs are the normal colour, and the eye is the normal colour of a Brent Goose. But the pigmentation's really washed out. I think some people say that it's where the egg's been exposed to the light too much that turns these birds like that. I'm not too sure on what the truth is in that.
Matt, before we go to that one, can I just screen share
There we go.
this website with Talk Migration, and also want to tie in with what I asked people, kind of what the bird that's most observed off the Essex coast on migration is, and it's definitely Brent Goose. Well done for those of you that got it. I don't know whether anybody wanted to estimate numbers, but Paul Brayshaw, thanks Paul for sending this info into us. Some brilliant information from his own observations there at Frinton. And he said between 2006 and 2019, he's not done it for this year, for last year yet, he's seen 329,718 observations of Brent geese past Frinton, which is truly astounding. Swift is the next highest for those that were interested, 180,000, and wood pigeon, swallow, goldfinch and starling, the others that are all over 100,000 in that period. But what is really interesting is going to Brent, the most is seen in a year, and obviously these sometimes, well, quite a few times going to be the same bird passing backwards and forwards, but he's 67,690 was his total in 2014. Now, we chatted about that, David, and you said that you reckon 2014 was a very good year for Brent.
So the way the lemming cycle goes in the Tamar Peninsula for lemmings, the 3-year cycle goes 2005, 2008, 2011, 2014, 2017. So yeah, it was a real good year that year. It was
so we better talk lemmings, because the only lemmings I've remembered before I got into birding was actually a computer game I used to play to try and stop them dropping off and killing themselves. So lemmings are these little mice-like type creatures.
Yeah, they're
little rodent.
They live on the Arctic tundra. The Dutch and Russian scientists have been up to Siberia several times. I think about 6 times in the past 20 years. The last time being in 2006, I believe. They monitor the lemming population. When there's a real lemming high, when they're really breeding, the things like snowy owls, Arctic foxes, and the tame-ear gull, it's very much like our lesser black-backed gull.
Yeah.
They predate on lemmings, so they leave Brent Goose goslings alone, thankfully.
Right.
So when we have a real lemming high, and those years, as I said earlier, we get very good breeding seasons of Brent geese. So the next year it peaks off a little bit. I believe this year, 2021, is meant to be a low year. So that probably indicates the fact that I've counted, I've looked through 16,000 Brent geese. I've aged 6,748, and I've got 4.59% juveniles in. So 4 or 5% is a very low breeding season. What we would call a very, very good breeding season, 15-20%. Brent geese probably have a mortality of like probably 10 to 12% each year through natural causes, predation, and death through age. So they're doing quite well at this moment in time. They went through a real high period in the 90s. I think the world population was around 320,000, 340,000. I think it's down to 220 now, 240.
Now, in terms of the number of goslings that they will have, what's the most you've seen, and what's the average numbers of young that they'll actually have in a good year per pair?
Okay, so a good brood size is probably over 3. An exceptional size, I've seen 7s and 8s.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I've seen a few 7s this year
Really?
so far.
Oh.
So there's probably been breeding in some remote areas where there's not much predation going on.
Yeah.
I actually see a ring pair of birds that had 6 juveniles. They were a pair from Southampton.
Wow.
And they reside on the Solent, right near Southampton Water. So these birds are faithful to Lee. They come back to Leigh-on-Sea every autumn. I've read them for the past 6 years. I think they were rung in 2013. So they come back through Lee and migrate on to Southampton. They're really faithful to the site there. I've actually seen them in Southampton as well. Went down there to look through geese and found these birds down there as well.
Brilliant.
A couple of years ago, when in January.
So put on the screen here the Eurobird portal, which it tracks migration sightings, and this is Brent Goose. So it'll, I believe it covers both pale bellied and.
So around the French coast at the moment, I've had a word from my French colleagues over the last couple of days, and they reckon there's 65,000 Brent geese have already arrived on the French coast.
Wow.
Wow.
So where are we at in the migration cycle right now, David? Have the majority arrived? Because Paul says these are the peak weeks, kind of last week of October, first week in November. What's your experience? And
so probably over the last 20 years, 25 years, the migration has gone much earlier. It used to be probably in mid-November, when the world population was a little bit smaller in the 70s. But now it's gone up a huge amount. and the birds come much earlier in September now.
Right.
And they probably the peak at Leigh-on-Sea was probably last week around the 12th, 10th, 12th. So the birds are actually going down now. There's not so many birds there, but probably 20,000 birds have probably moved through Leigh-on-Sea and the Essex coast so far, but
Amazing.
probably up to 40,000 will pass through.
Amazing, because some of them, as you say, are passing through. This shows the movement throughout the year of them in terms of sightings. Now, some stick around, don't they, during the summer? There's odd birds, and they'll be, but there were kind of, what date are we? Middle of August here. And obviously the little red dots, if you've seen that on the screen, are less where there's less reports. Would they be kind of just birds that are either too sick to fly or just hanging out?
So these are normally birds that are too old to make the journey back. These remain site faithful to their wintering grounds.
Yeah.
And they'll stay in a particular area. They won't really move much from week to week. It's pretty common nowadays to see probably like up to groups of 20, 30 plus birds stay in most estuaries on the Essex coast. Bradwell's a very good place. Leigh-on-Sea, obviously. I know probably around Dovercourt, places like that. There's very good salt marshes and just probably like the habitat back home in Siberia. So the birds have the best of both worlds. There's good feeding still. They're safe. They can molt here, so they're safe when they molt their feathers in July. And there's no need to make their journeys.
So
some birds remain in Scandinavia, around Denmark, and don't make they short stay.
Amazing. What I'm finding interesting clicking through this is there's weeks when there's obviously a high reporting, and we would suspect high movement. You can't directly correlate that, and unless so I'm guessing weather's going to have an effect, and we're maybe seeing some of that here as well on this data. So
when it's very mild, 20% of the world populations probably stay around the Dutch coast. And then that's quite evident. Probably 3/4 of the world population that go through the Dutch Waddenese Sea, or most of them, but probably 7/8 of them, they go through the Dutch Waddenese Sea in spring. It's a really good area to watch Brent Goose. A place where I've been a couple of times to actually observe Brent Goose and read rings on the Dutch Waddenese Islands of Terschelling and Vlieland and Texel. Brilliant area.
Paul said in his data that he sent us, particularly he'll be watching for them on a southerly wind or an easterly. Those are the keys. Matt, have you got the rest of those picks? And then
I think we've got three or four more to share.
Q&A. Get your questions in now if you've got any.
I've got a
David
question as well, which we'll cover in a minute. Yeah.
So this is the most easterly observed dark-bellied Brent Goose from the Maria Provincia Lake Tamir. This bird actually used to come to Bradwell-on-Sea, Sand Beach, Bradwell. So it came there for quite a few years, and I believe this bird was recovered shot in the Russian White Sea a few years ago. But this was when the bird was alive, and it was travelling back and forth.
What's the distance?
So this is the most extreme area, most eastern observed Brent Goose.
Did you measure that kind of distance, David?
I believe it's somewhere like in the region of 3,000 odd miles.
Wow.
And how
sorry,
how long would it take to make that journey? Sorry.
So birds wouldn't make this journey straight off. They would have stopping staging sites, probably in Holland, Germany, and they stop a few weeks. Sometimes the birds stop for only a short period of time, 2 or 3 days, but they can make the migration in a couple of weeks if they went. But I think it's been recorded that they've done it in probably less than 3 weeks.
Blimey.
Wow, amazing. There's actually the Essex Birdwatching Society are partnering with the Essex Wildlife Trust on a tracking program where David's got pictures there of some with collars, where they actually get radio tracking or satellite tracking data. And on the Essex Wildlife Trust website, on the tracking program, there's an incredible story there of a Brent Goose, if anybody wants to kind of look at that in terms of travelling out from Blue House Farm over to Holland and then onwards. But red-breasted goose, David.
Yes, so this is Deal Hall, which is on the outermost Crouch estuary. It's on the right on the outer Crouch. There's a huge flock that winter on the wheat there. Probably 5,000 birds there in winter. Was lucky enough to find this red-breasted goose, this adult red-breasted goose, in 2016. It's one of 7 that I've found in 30 years of watching Brent Geese on the Essex coast. Quite an amazing bird, really. Probably one of my favourite birds too. You know, it's a real thrill to find something like this. Never get bored of finding these.
I'll bet.
I think I had this bird coming over my head. I heard it calling. I've got an advantage over most people because I had a wildfowl collection and I've had red-breasted geese in it. So this is the sailing barge reminder in the background, and this is actually Steeple, looking out into Steeple Bay, right by Mayland Creek. So you can actually see there's a black brant on the left-hand side as the picture goes, and there's a red-breasted goose feeding there. So this picture was painted for me by a Lee artist. His name's John Copgrove. He's done probably 4 or 5 paintings for me in my house. This one's probably, it means a lot to me. I'm not sure if you can see the front Brent Goose there. He's got coloured rings on it. When you're in my house, you can actually see the painting. You can actually read the rings. That's green in, green 9, and it's paired to green 2, green 9, and there's an orange red pair behind them as well. So these birds were actually rung in Siberia, but there's a bit of artistic license there, and John's captured them coming down on a typical Essex coastal scene.
Wow. Okay, have we got any questions, Matt, for
so I've got
David?
one question from Andy Goody. So Andy said, "Hi David, if they lose their partner early on, do they repair with another bird easily?"
Good question.
Yeah, so I watched a pair that were a couple for 17 years, and I actually see them on the Dutch island of Terschelling 2 years ago, and they're divorced, and you know, they was in separate fields.
Oh, wow.
And the female, she'd taken up with another partner. Typical.
Wow.
So yeah, there's
Anything else,
and,
Matt?
you know, when birds lose their partners, they do take new partners on, but in general, as a rule, they stay together like for life. But they do take other partners.
And yeah, we just got a lot of feedback, just really saying thank you. So Les Malloy said, "Excellent, concise info. Thank you." And Adam says, "Interesting, thanks." Hi Annette, how you doing? And Richard Chu.
Great.
Richard Chu said, "Fascinating and interesting discussion on what is an iconic wintering bird of Essex."
It's Essex, isn't it? It's Essex through and through. I've got a couple of questions for you, David.
Okay.
One was, you told me a story about you not actually yet, I say yet, had the privilege of going over to Siberia and working your way all the way up there to see them on the breeding grounds, but you got a friend who has, and he had an interesting encounter, didn't he, with a...
Yeah, I've got a friend, his name's Andrew St. Joseph. He owns a mill farm near Tollsbury. He's been up to Siberia. He went up there in 1990. They put red rings on the geese, like typical. You know, that was the first colours that they used, reds, and they were like the typical, you know, like Siberian thing, Russian thing. So Andrew came back home after spending the spring, summer, the summer in Siberia. When he came home, he was watching some geese in the autumn, winter. He used to live down Old Hall Lane, and he got his telescope and he rested it on his toilet system. And out the back, some guys will probably know this. Out the back, there's like a turf lawn. The Brent love it, and they feed on there quite vigorously. He was looking for these geese, and there was a pair that he had rung in his backyard that he'd rung in Siberia, or helped ring in Siberia. Red P, green H, and red P, green K, and I read them many times myself at Old Hall in the 90s. So nice story there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, they say there's that. You see that kind of, on the BBC, the what do they call it, where they link, they hatch out geese and various things, and they become kind of partnered to a person, don't they? They get them in kind of a biplane and stuff, and kind of having following for the shooting. But that's a different spin on the picture.
So Andrew's philosophy is there are two types of birds. Non-Brent geese and Brent geese.
That's brilliant.
Well, feeding into that, Dave Smith has said great stuff. They're proper Essex birds.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tim Hayward said fascinating, and Jan Lewis has said, is the total number of ringed Brent geese low compared with the total population? So do we know?
Okay, so we believe that there's 1 in 400 geese that's got a coloured ring on. Always ringed in some type of way. So yeah, when you look for a flock of Brent geese, if you think that there's not any there, just keep looking, because a flock that you might have looked at last week may contain a ring in it the week after, because Brent are always on the move and they're always turning up different places. It's through ringing, we find out lots of information, and the Southern Ringing Group have done a fantastic job at Blue House Farm the last 3-4 years, capturing 67 Brent geese. From this, we know what sites birds are using, the site fidelity that they're using, the age that they're going to get to. Them ringing geese has kept me in ring reading for the next 20 years, hopefully.
You know what, guys? Do you know what? I was at Blue House Farm a couple of years ago, and I found a black Brant, and I could see Dave over the other side. So I rang him, and he came round, and I'd been looking through these Brent geese, couldn't see any rings. He turned up, no word of a lie, he spotted like 10 different birds. And I hadn't seen any of them. They are, you've really got to get your eye in. Yeah, you're doing amazing, Dave.
Yeah, amazing.
It's amazing. Quite fun, and anybody, you're welcome to Facebook me or Twitter me, PM me. Quite welcome, to come out anytime and see what Brent geese are all about on the Essex coast.
Brilliant. That's brilliant. That's off to Davey Lowe. Round of applause from everybody. Before you go, David, one last question.
Okay.
I've asked this question of a number of our experts that we've had on the programme. I'm just going to try and find the appropriate share here. And we will go to, you probably see this doing it live while I'm doing it.
There you go.
I'll ask the expert. How's that? So Steve Grimwade was our first and resident expert. And I'm asking them what they think the next first bird for Essex is, in terms of it hasn't been seen and recorded before. And Steve went for red flanked bluetail. Simon Wood reckoned white-billed diver. I'm still waiting for Howard Vaughan to get back to me, so he's on Daffy Duck at the moment. What do you think, David? What would you say?
I'm going to plummet for Hudsonian Godwit.
Hudsonian Godwit.
Yeah. Can you spell that, Steve?
Yeah, I like that. It's good. Good call, that, with a number.
Very good. So I'll get that on there, and you'll be on the table, and we'll see who wins.
Are you going to be able to spell that one, Steve?
I think Steve's time's up this year, kind of for his.
Oh no!
Still time.
Still got another couple of weeks yet, I reckon.
Well, we better say goodbye to David and get on with what's about and what we're hoping for. We know what you're hoping for. But good luck, David, with the ringing or the ringing reading rings.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, mate.
Thanks,
Great insight.
Bye. Bye.
Great stuff.
Wow, what a subject.
What a bloke.
Oh,
Unbelievable.
I love just bumping into some of these guys that are passionate about a particular species or a particular aspect of bird. It is fantastic. Dedication.
Absolutely. God. How are we going to follow that then?
I don't know. Should we go home?
Yeah.
Oh, we are home.
No one's watching, are they? I mean,
just incredible.
I think Nick Lay's waiting for something on a white stalk, so we better not disappoint him. But we're going to kind of talk about what what's been whiz around our patches, and what we might be hopefully seeing in the next few weeks, I guess. And also we've got our bird of the month. If you haven't yet voted on Twitter, or we didn't give the options, did we? So should we?
Well, it's finished, to be fair. We ran a poll on Twitter.
Okay, so we're not giving people opportunity tonight on YouTube then.
It finished at 8 o'clock, so it's all done and dusted.
We better keep that up our sleeve, hadn't we, till the end?
Yeah, we'll put it on. We'll put it up at the end, definitely. Yeah.
Good idea. Right. So who's going first then?
Well, to be fair, I mean, you're talking about white stalks. I mean, obviously we had one on our local patch, and which was not dodgy, not like some areas in Essex. You know, let me just quickly close my windows. Oh God, you know what, this mouse tonight is just, here we go. Do you know what?
You've got Mickey Mouse there. We've got Daffy Duck tonight. You know, so I think you've got Mickey Mouse.
I've changed the batteries. I've done like all the... I think the mouse is just like camera shy.
Yeah, you know what he used to say when he used to work in computers? It's always the operator. Always the operator.
Look.
Hey, look at that one.
So this is a white stalk. It was Stanway gravel pits.
Oh, that looks familiar.
Does look familiar on account that it's black and white and got red beak and red legs. But can you spot the difference between this bird and your bird?
No ring.
Not on that one.
No. So this bird's completely unringed. So I mean, as to the origins of this bird, we really don't know. I mean, it's been feeding on a rubbish tip on and off for the last sort of 6 weeks or so. So you know, it could well be a wild bird. Hopefully it will go in the next week or two.
Because that's the factor, isn't it? That's why we talk about the rings. If the bird's ringed, it could be from a captive collection. Probably is. Yeah, well, it is. But so to be a legit wild one for your tick list, your true tick list, it has to have no rings. So.
Yeah, ideally.
Yeah, Nick, get a pair of pliers out, will you, and get down to that one.
Bolt cutters.
Excellent.
That's been pretty much the bird of the. Well, bird of the year, I think, up this area.
Well, you say that, but obviously we've got bird of the month competition coming up. But I bumped into Daryl Style down at the Naze yesterday, and we were chatting for a good hour or so. And he reminded me that there was actually a sighting reported on one of the WhatsApp groups, just briefly, which I didn't realise was associated with him, but he picked up a bird coming from the sort of Hanford Water direction, I think he said. In flight, it was a passerine, quite small, quite a sort of jerky flight pattern. And he kind of stayed on it because something about it was ringing alarm bells. And then as it flew over his head, it was calling like I can't do it, but it's like a sort of a that kind of a call. And it was penduline tit.
Wow.
Penduline tit. He said it called 6 times as it flew over his head and then disappeared.
That is interesting. I think one turned up at Beddington Sewage Works.
Well, possibly the same
stealing
bird.
your thunder, Matt? Sorry.
No, possibly the same bird. Yeah, that's what he said. So, I mean, just to have that coming overhead must have been really exciting. Yeah. There's been some other good sightings on the Naze in the last sort of month or so. We've had red-breasted flycatcher up there, nice. Along with pied and spotted flies. And Daryl said he thinks there's been around 50 flycatchers in total this year so far, spring and autumn.
Wow. Good.
There's been a Pallas's warbler. There's been Dartford warbler, yellow-browed warbler. We've had brambling, siskins and tree sparrows coming through. There's been a handful of tree sparrows. Paul Brayshaw had 4 cackle egret at Little Oakley, which is a good place to have them. They're starting to be seen at more locations now, I think, around the county.
Yeah.
Black-throated divers, recently including one today. Razorbill, rough-legged buzzard at Wigborough Sewage Works. I think Clive had one of those. 13 spoonbill flew past Holland a week or two ago. Matt Lonsdale picked them up. And of course, there was the black stork that was in August, I think it was.
Yeah.
Since the last one of these we did. And in fact, today, there's been guillemots, black-throated diver, a woodcock and a puffin.
Wow.
Yeah, puffin bobbing around in the sea off of Holland. So really, really good.
Good Essex bird, that is. Good record.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Good. Well, down our way, I'll try and share some pictures as well as I do this, which could be fun.
Don't blame the mouse.
No, my mouse is fine. How's that?
Oh, that's nice.
Oh,
That's
right.
a nice one. It's not a green shank on the screen, but I'll just go through the various. Forgive me if I've missed anything. This is just kind of my own little notes and observations. You need to be tapping into Howard Vaughan and the stuff he puts out for a thorough list of sightings, particularly down our way on the east side of on the west side of the south, going into London, or also the SOG Southend Ornithological Group guys and their website for the east side. But yeah, in terms of Brent Geese, Leon C's been the place, and David actually informed me there's been and also it was reported a hybrid white-fronted goose, white-fronted Brent Goose cross at Gunners Park. In terms of ducks, we saw a few pintail come through. We've had a few down on the Thames. They're popping up in various places. Widgeon are back, teal are back. You've got a bit of an odd teal up your way, haven't you, Steve?
Oh.
Yeah, Abberton, Matt and I, well, Matt saw it, it's been around for a few days, but there's a Baikal Teal times Eurasian teal hybrid.
So keep your eyes open for that, but don't be fooled by it. It's a cross.
I've got a picture of it here, actually.
We'll have a look later then, shall we?
Yeah, yeah.
And then, but Paul Larkin's a brilliant birder. Found a gargany flying with a teal down the River Thames
Nice.
on the 8th of the month, which is a nice bird, a bird I've not seen this year. There was also, and he saw that in the morning, then he popped back in the afternoon because he just picks the tides to watch the turns, really, is what he's into. And he had 2 blackneck grebe sightings on the river. I'm not sure whether it could have been the same bird or whether separate. One little 26 common tern past ET, but probably it's late now for terns down our way, so they're probably all gone. But waders, green shanks, it's been great for green shanks down our way, particularly with the new scrape. And also these little beauties. How's about that? I tried to, you know, they're in a wood environment, but they are green sandpipers, not wood sandpipers. But that was on the sandpit at TTNP.
Lovely.
The green shank was down at East Tilbury, again, another one of mine. And then we've seen very few of these, not the best pick, but there's a Dunlin there.
Yep.
This was my first back on the 13th of September with these ringed plovers. But we've had very few up until the last week, but numbers have come back. And as a result of that, probably there's 1 or 2 curlew sandpipers being reported. Paul Wood saw one, I think, weekend before last. Little stints as well among them on the mudflats at Mucking and East Tilbury. And there's still an old green sandpiper. We've had snipe back, but the wader of the month so far has to be this little beauty. Very distant, so it's a digiscope shot, but that's a redneck phalarope in amongst black-tailed godwit there, just for size reference of how dainty these little fellas are. And they're almost duck-like the way they kind of, you know, swim on the top of the surface of the water, just pecking various things. This was really interesting. Steve had a group down at Canvey, Steve, didn't you? So you kind of came across, had a good look at this.
Yep.
But this was at Bowers Marsh on the 6th of October, found by Graham Oakes. Well done, Graham. And again, this black-headed gull kind of followed it. And I don't know whether, at first I thought I was going to attack it, but then I thought it was actually thinking it was probably something like itself, because the way black-headed gulls pick, say, flies and hatch off the surface, the redneck phalarope does the same. And it got pretty much close behind it, and then the redneck said, no, I'm going to leave you. But the best shot I got for plumage detail, if you are looking for them, or to identify one against the grey, is that one. What would be the key features, Steve, to look for between that and grey phalarope?
Yeah, I mean, the bill is almost needle-like on redneck phalarope. And then obviously you can see, and grey phalarope's much more chunkier bill.
Yeah.
And then tends to redneck phalarope has tends to these sort of, you can just about make out these sort of golden sort of mantle stripes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a smart looking bird.
Cracking bird.
To be fair, you should be on the lookout for grey phalaropes at the moment, because there's a few.
Yeah. That's what surprised me about the redneck. More often than not, I recall rednecks turning up in the springtime, not the autumn.
Yeah, I mean, certainly at Abberton, September's normally pretty good month for redneck phalaropes. But there's been very few records of
very few reports, isn't there?
No. So whether it's been a poor breeding season up in northern Europe, I don't know. But
trickling on with my report to seabirds, again, we've had a few auks around, odd guillemots, razorbill, Paul Larkin had again, odd common scotus, some gannet. For instance, last weekend there were 11 gannets off Canvey, also been seen at Gunners Park in Southend. Odd Arctic skewers and bonxes, a great skewer. Again, great northern diver on the 11th of October, and red-throated diver also reported from Wallasey, where they're scarce. But now's a good time to look for them in the river, divers, particularly I was watching, I think it were bass feeding on small fry-type fish off Coalhouse Fort. Up until recently, very few cormorants feeding upriver this far. Maybe there's an influx of whiting or sprats or something or other, which may bring something up. Say there's a black-necked grebe seen at Hanningfield today and reported from Hanningfield in the northwest corner of the causeway by David Curl. Herons, there's a purple heron that might still be kicking around. There's been one on and off for a while now around Bowers Marsh in that area, and that was reported on the 17th of September last. Cattle egrets and great whites as well. Gulls and terns, well, starting this report was kind of end of August, and Paul Wood and myself both saw Sabine's gull down here at East Tilbury. They were seen at once in Canvey about 40 minutes, I think, before Paul saw probably most likely the same bird down at East Tilbury. But I think it was on the 30th or 31st of August. But since then, we just had, been a bit quiet, a kitty wake in that kind of easterly flow. But this morning, Gary James and the Sabines that we saw were juveniles, and I saw two little gull as well, juveniles. But this morning, Gary A. James reported a adult Sabine's gull at Beckton, upriver. So that's a fantastic sight and cracking bird. Yellow-legged gulls are still around, and if you want to see gulls, certainly the East Tilbury New Scrape is a good place, although they're still doing work on it during the day. Ravens are about, but I need to show you this picture of raptor. This is a fantastic picture. Are you seeing this? Or
you might need to share your screen again, Steve. Yeah. Sorry, I think
that's all right.
Pictures. Sorry.
There we go. Osprey at Little Bellis, just near Ockenden. A picture taken by Ian Plume, who I met yesterday. Thanks, Ian, for that.
Beautiful.
And then, what's my kind of plot? Fantastic bird, isn't it? There's Osprey. Paul Wood saw an Osprey as well from East Tilbury a couple of weeks ago. And then the other bird that's been reported that Ian took was this tree sparrow.
Nice.
And this was on the 22nd of September at Gunners Park. And we saw one round about that time at East Tilbury, but probably not the same birds. I think we saw it on the 20th at East Tilbury. Or some of us saw it. Yeah, sorry on that.
I think they ringed one at Gunners Park as well, so presumably that's the same bird.
Probably the same bird then, but brilliant record.
Lovely.
Also in the passerine category, we had the movement of meadow pipit reflected elsewhere, house martin and swallow. Windchap was at East Tilbury on Sunday, and then Ben Rumsby saw and photographed the Dartford warbler.
Very nice.
It was seen on the 16th at Rainham. So now's the time to start to look for scrub. But we've got bearded tit on the move. They tend to kind of get a little bit vocal at this time of year. And then the brambling movement that's already been reported. And we've had some red wing amongst still some of the warblers that are still kicking around. So that's our area.
Just really quickly, you mentioned that teal. Just if anyone is going to Abberton, this is
Baikal Teal.
So it's a kind of Baikal Eurasian teal hybrid. So the markings on the face look different, and slightly different coloration and slightly different wing markings as well. Yeah, really pretty little bird, that one. Definitely.
And of course, that bird's done a bit of a tour of Essex. It started off in sort of metropolitan Essex, and it's been up to Colchester and now Abberton. So where will it end up next?
Yeah. Send your answers on the postcard too.
Yeah, we always have a prediction for that. But what are our predictions? What do you think's coming? I kind of had a look on Bird Track and it said short-eared owl and also fieldfare this weekend.
Yeah.
Weather's gone round north. Could well be an influx of fieldfare.
Yeah.
Short-eared owl. What do you think, Steve?
To be fair, I think the wind's going north just for a day or two, then it's going back southwesterly again for the next 3 or 4 or 5 days. So, but I mean, those birds have still got to find their way across. So, yeah, ring ouzel, I think.
Mm.
Yeah, that'd be good shout. Yeah, in fact, there was one coming off of off at Frinton today. Ring ouzel. Paul had a really nicely marked one. Yeah,
very good.
Ring ouzels, and of course red flank bluetail. So,
of course,
okay.
Which typically will turn up this weekend because I'm working in North.
You're away, yeah?
So if you want to go out and find one, this weekend's the time to do it.
We've got some questions. So we'll first couple of comments. Mel has said in reference to David, what a top man. Maybe he could be a new presenter.
Mm-hmm.
We can have a night off then.
Did a good job tonight.
Yeah. The question now is, who does Mel want to get rid of? No, don't answer that. Jim said Jim Hume reckons he's going to go for Zitting Sisticola. And I think that's only because he wanted to see if I could actually say it. So that's going to be his one. But then he has put hashtag never going to happen. So
yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, you got Nick Lay said he's on his way to see the white stork up here. Richard Chew says your one is a fence jumper. Your stork down there.
It is.
I like that. And Les Malloy has said, have we got a bogey bird that keeps eluding us year after year? Well, as you all know, I've not been doing it that long, but my bogey bird probably would be long-eared owl. Although I must confess, I haven't really tried massively hard to see one, but I still haven't seen one yet. So I'd love to see a long-eared owl. What about you guys?
To be fair, it sounds really big-headed, but I don't really have one.
He's seen everything. Steve's seen everything.
There's lots of things I've not seen.
Great yellow legs.
Yeah, great yellow legs was big. Yeah, I never caught up with the one in Suffolk last year because of COVID and stuff. So yeah, go on. Yeah, great yellow legs would be a nice one.
I saw Elaine and I saw our bogey bird yesterday.
Oh.
It was a bird that we drove all the way, and if anybody's been to Scotland, the Highlands, they know the distance between Fort William and Aberdeen. And we drove all the way across to Aberdeen to sit by a river to see a bird, a duck, that had flown and been seen 15 minutes before we did and was never seen again. It was a harlequin duck.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we drove all the way back to Fort William to accommodation because I was actually preaching at a church the following day. Left it as late as I could to go to try and see this harlequin duck. We didn't, but yesterday I was invited by Swarovski, as all people, to the Arundel WWT Centre. Well, was it Wildlife Wetland Trust?
Yeah.
And I looked into an aviary that they have, and there were harlequin ducks with common I've never been so close to common squoters, mergansers, and long-tailed ducks literally around my ankles. It was the most weird experience that probably we'll come back to in another program. But actually, I saw Harlequin duck yesterday.
They are nice.
But it doesn't count because, like this bird, which I must go back to, it is not a genuine legit. Now, this is the picture, Steve. Can you see the ring?
Be fair, not brilliantly, I have to say.
Oh,
But,
it's here, isn't it, on the knee? Can you see there?
yeah, just about.
No, you can't because it's not on the knee at all. It's just green.
It's on
It's
the left
actually
leg.
here.
Yeah, it's on the left leg, yeah.
Yeah. Because this was the picture. I only processed these midweek. I went down there. Look, you can see it was a dank, dreary day.
Mm.
And I looked, and I was actually looking for coloured rings. I have to be honest. I thought, you know, these captive birds usually have colour rings. It didn't. And it wasn't until good old Ian went out on a bright, I think it was Monday morning, he actually took this photograph, and there you can clearly see the bird has a ring. Not only that, he took a picture of it in flight, and Nick was contacting me because he heard from the farmer the bird seemed to be struggling flying. It wasn't struggling flying, but it has got some flight primary and secondary damage, missing feathers there. But again, another photograph of Ian with it in flight there, majestic as it is. And it was still there yesterday, still feeding on at least worms. So it was still about yesterday, Nick, and it's still going down in my kind of patch tick list as a white stork, even though it's got a ring on. I was pleased to see it.
Definitely. Tim Hayward wanted to know, Steve G, was your Bergie bird an albatross by any chance?
Oh, that's harsh.
A Bempton albatross.
How do you kick people off of YouTube? I just need to work.
Exactly.
Les Malloy, he's not seen a yellow-browed warbler, so that keeps eluding him.
Good luck with that.
And Mel Shepherd-Wells is Dotterel, he hasn't seen, and Jim Hume hasn't seen Little Bunting. So there's bits and pieces out there that people are all still hunting for, which is part of the fun of it. There's loads I haven't seen, so yeah, it's good. Yeah.
AGP's probably my other one.
We've got a few pictures, guys. So
Come on, let's go for it. We'll extend tonight.
People have been sending in pictures, so thanks very much for everyone that's sent in.
Put the kettle on, have another Horlicks, and we'll. It's been such a good night, hasn't it, with David and stuff? We'll take a liberty and.
Okay, so Jan Lewis, hope Jan's still watching. He sent in this lovely picture of blackneck grebe.
I saw two yesterday in an aviary.
That's the I think that's the Hanningfield bird.
Nice, that's good.
Showing really nicely. So might have to pop down and try and see that hopefully. Ken Laban had Mediterranean gold, adult med.
It's a ringed bird.
Yeah, it's a ringed bird. Well,
it is.
My camera's in the way, is it? I can't see that.
Yeah.
Okay. Hang on, let's just have a.
We can't see the.
Yeah, I can see it now. Sorry. I've got a
green,
camera right,
greenish
right
grey band, or is it green band?
I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see where that's from.
But that's obviously an adult in winter plumage, and that was down in. I think it was down at Southend. He had that, and at the same time he had a sandwich tern.
Lovely.
Good.
So let me just check. Yeah, Ken was. It was at Southend. The Med Goal. They were both on the 6th, 6th of October. And I actually had a sandwich tern at the Naze yesterday, which is getting a little bit late for terns to still be around, isn't it? I think. And then obviously we've got Misty Med. This is a lovely picture sent in by Liz Huxley. Thank you. And she's also sent an email saying there's no contest for her best recent bird sighting, which was the Palace's warbler at the Naze, in her opinion. She was due to start work at the Naze Centre at 11, so she grabbed an hour's birding beforehand. She missed it by less than 5 minutes and joined others looking at the birches and nearby bushes for the next 40 minutes. Had to leave to go to work, and as she walked back towards the steps, she heard and then saw this little gem of a bird, brief but brilliant. So well done, Liz.
Fantastic, well done.
Glad you got it. A beautiful little bird. And then we've got some pictures from David Smith. I'll put them in a separate folder because he sent in a few. Oh,
Okay.
got this one. Sorry, Paul Everett.
Oh, right. Yeah, the Osprey.
Yeah. So this is there's a little bit of a story behind this actually. Paul Everett is interested in photography in a massive way, and I think he's relatively new to birding. I've only met him once at Abberton, but we had a chat for a bit. And this is a photograph that he put onto the EBS website. And originally, he identified a buzzard, and he wasn't sure on the other birds. He said it did look different, but he assumed it might have been a juvenile buzzard. So he put the sighting onto EBS. And we do monitor the photos on EBS regularly. And we contacted Paul, and we were really pleased to inform him that obviously the second bird is actually an osprey. Really, really good sighting. And that was at Russell, is it Russell Green Gravel Pits, I think?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Down sort of, I think it's the west of Whittam. So to be fair, it's quite a good location to have one of these as well.
Absolutely.
Really, really nice bird. And it just goes to show it's always important to bring your camera with you. You know, if you've got a camera, take it with you when you're out birding. If there's anything that you don't know what it is, snap a picture, because you can always look it up later on, or even if you're not sure, send it into us at Essex Birdwatching Society, info.ebws@gmail.com, and we'll have a look at it and we'll see what we think.
Useful for seeing over mounds as well, cameras, aren't they, Steve?
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, all right. Yeah. Well, no, I couldn't even get my camera over the mound. And then we've got some pictures from David Smith. So thanks, David, for sending these in. This is the first one, Lucastic redshank. And this is from Fingering Hoe. This bird's been around for a few years now, I think.
It has, yeah.
But obviously it's one in the middle there, and just very pale. The beak and the eye and the legs are still the same colour. So I think that's what makes it Lucastic rather than albino. But that's a nice picture. Then we've got some Avocet, which is a lovely picture. But the reason he sent us this one is if you look at the bird on the right here, it's having a bit of a scratch in mid-flight, which I quite liked. I've not seen that before. So I think that tickled his fancy. And we've got a group of Black-tailed Goblets. That was at Manningtree on the Stour. And again, you can get the river path. The birds are so used to people walking along there that you can actually get reasonably close to them to get a nice picture. Obviously stay on the path, of course, but you can get nice views from there. And then I really like this picture. This is a very good identification aid, I think, because you've got a nice picture in itself, but the bird in the front here is a Bartel Goblet, and the other birds are Black-tailed Goblets. And you can clearly see, well, first of all, the Barwit has got a slight upturn to its bill, and the bill is usually longer than Blackwit. You've got the dark markings on the scapulars and the wing coverts here. So it looks a lot more sort of checkered, mottled almost than a black-tailed. And of course, you can nicely see the bar on its tail here, as opposed to the black-tail on the Black-tailed Goblet, which is of course what gives them their name. And he managed to get the same bird in flight. So again, in flight, you can't see it from the picture here, but a Bartel Goblet, the legs don't extend beyond the tail. Whereas with a Black-tailed Goblet, because the legs are longer, they do extend beyond the tail. And of course, if you get a view of the top side of the tail, you've got the Black-tail and the Bartel, which gives them their name, of course.
Look at that from information there from the beach here. That could be a juvenile bird, that with a kind of scalloping on the edge of the feathers and the dark centres on the covert.
Yeah. Possibly so, actually. I'm not sure. I need to look that up, but that's possibly so. Got a nice picture of some Blackwits in flight here. And then final picture from everyone. We've got a little game which he's invited us to play called Spot the Wader. So I know we've been going on for quite a while, but if we very quickly go through this, so do you want to shout out what you think you can see, and I'll point to them if I can work it out.
Goldies there, golden plover.
Yeah, so we've got golden plovers. What else we got down the front here?
Dunlin.
Dunlins, yeah. At the back, I think there's a Blackwit there.
Something, yeah, a little larger at the back.
Moving along, what we got in the middle here? A couple of pale birds here.
Oh, hold on. Waiting for that.
We've got a lapwing there.
Yeah, it's got a lapwing.
Not.
Couple of knot in the middle.
Not in the middle, yeah.
I think we've got a cheeky grey plover just sticking his head out just over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Redshank.
Yeah, you got red shank just here. Yep. And I think at the back looks like that's a barwit at the back because of the
Oh yes.
slightly shorter leg possibly.
Yep.
I think down the front here, a little bit out of focus because obviously depth of field. But you can see a couple of ringos with a dunlin.
Well, a bit slow for me.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think, is that it? I think that's about it. We've got the lapwing, we've had the lapwing, haven't we? But yeah, I think that's a nice picture. So yeah, thanks for sharing that, David, and just a little bit of fun there.
Lovely.
Stuff.
Good.
Right.
Well, have we got to do news on the photo competition, Matt? Did you want to say anything about that? And then it's bird of the month so far.
Yeah, so basically we've got we're running a photo competition at the moment. Now, if you log onto the EBS website, you'll see the details on one of the news posts. And the idea really is, rather than running it monthly, we're running it quarterly now, and we're doing it by season. So this one is obviously an autumn photography competition, and the idea is any birds that you've seen or taken pictures of in September, October, November, please send us a picture if you want to enter the competition. You can send as many as you want to. They just need to be taken in Essex during those months. I think the closing date for the entries is November the 7th, and then we'll judge it and put the finalists up onto Twitter and YouTube and Facebook and so on for people to judge. And then the winner this time around is going to get a framed copy of their photograph. So little incentive for you there. So yeah, please go to the EBS website, ebws.org.uk, and there's all the details on there as to how to enter. And the other thing that we were going to quickly talk about, I don't know, have you got that Twitter poll ready, Steve? I'm going to share the.
Yeah, I can do. Okay.
A little picture. I did a. Where are we?
Oh,
there we go. So we're kind of doing a bird of the month competition, but someone pointed out that obviously the month hasn't finished yet. So technically this is going to be bird of the month so far.
Oh.
And we had 4 finalists, didn't we? What were the 4 finalists, Steve?
So we had redneck phalarope.
Yep.
Red-breasted flycatcher, American golden plover, and Pallas's warbler.
And what were the?
And in reverse order, number 4, Pallas's warbler. Number 3, red-breasted flycatcher. Number 2, redneck phalarope, and number 1, American golden
plover.
Oh.
So almost
Nice.
be 2 months running that, wouldn't it? Because it kind of appeared in September for the Big County Bird Watch and was bird of the BCBW. And
but typically the fingering hoe bird in September was only seen by 2 people, and then the one in October was seen by Daryl Rhymes at Abberton, and he was the only one that saw it. And it was the same bird.
And typically, having dipped them on 3 counties, I'm now kind of teased by one in my own county, but there we go.
Well, I was gonna tease David Smith and copy paste a little picture of the AGP into his Wader picture, but I didn't get time. So.
That'd be good.
That would have been fun.
Brilliant.
Good. Well, we've got some things going on. We've got a talk in Chelmsford, and also I need to tell you, if you are not a member of the society, if you join now, you get the rest of this year free, as well as next year for your subscription of £16. So go to the website if you want to avail yourself of that. But Steve has done a graphic.
Little graphic there for this. So
And this is what's happening. Got an evening talk in Chelmsford at the Quaker Meeting House on Friday the 5th. So there'll be fireworks there, birding in Kazakhstan.
yeah,
And then you've got a field trip on the 14th of November, which is down our neck of the woods, Thameside Nature Park and Rainham in the afternoon. That's a drive down and join the guys at 9 o'clock in the car park of Thameside, that'll be. And then our next Birds of Essex is on Friday the 26th of November. So we're going to the last Friday in the month.
Yep.
So then we'll kind of have more of a chance of doing a full Bird of the Month stint.
Excellent. Got a couple of final comments. Jim seems very happy that the AGP has won for a 2nd month in a row, and he said, "Yay!"
Good.
I reckon there's a little AGP party going on around Jim's house. And Les Malloy saw it. So I don't know whether he saw the AGP at Abberton, I would imagine, because I think it was only Jim and Was it Yvonne saw it at Fingering Her
I
as well?
think so, yeah.
Yeah. Reckon
Someone else saw
Les got it at Aberton, which is good. And final thing, we're not going to address this now, but just to acknowledge it, David Smith sent in a question about the huge raft of coots that are off the Laird de la Haye Causeway at the moment. I think they're there every winter, you know, thousands of coots.
Yeah.
And he's asked why they flock together and for us to discuss that. I think maybe that's something we can do.
We'll have to look into that. We'll have to see if we can find an expert. But if anybody else has got any questions, I know Jamie sent a few in, and we've dealt with kind of tawny owls and a little bit on the wind direction, Jamie, tonight. But yeah, kind of send your questions in.
I want to know, is that a picture of me on your bookshelf?
You feature on my bookcase.
Like, I was looking earlier and I thought, that looks like me.
It's my very own Steve G.
Oh no!
Oh my crikey!
I reckon he pretends it's you when he's out and about. That's what it is.
He's a bit washed out, but oh dear, where are we? Where are we?
Oh my God, it's the end of the show.
Have you? I know it's been a long year, Steve, but don't you remember the pineapple?
Yeah, I do. That's the pineapple. You still got it, crikey.
Just to finish with, Les said he did see the AGP at Fingering Hoe. So
brilliant.
Well done, Les. Yeah, brilliant.
Pretty good.
Oh, enough. We got to go.
Yeah.
Thanks for everybody watching, and thanks to David Lowe. And thank you guys as well, and all those that have sent stuff in and contributed. It's been fun, as usual, and we will see you on the last Friday in November.
Yes.
Yeah. Good birding, everybody.
Good birding. Good night. We'll get my hand in the picture.
See you later.